Okay, so my film is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was made in 1937. The director was David Hand. And we got, the main actors was Adriana Castelletti, which was Snow White, and Lucille Laverne, which is the Queen slash the Witch, and we got Harry Stockwell, which was the Prince. In Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, we have like a young princess named Snow White, and she's forced to flee into the forest after her evil stepmother, like the queen, becomes jealous of her beauty. In the forest, she discovers like a cottage inhabited by like seven dwarves. We got Doc, Grumpy, Humpy, Sleepy, Bashful, Sneezy, and Dopey. A lot of names. And these dwarves, they take Snow White and she becomes their caretaker, kinda. But the queen, she's disguised as an old hag at this point in the movie. She eventually finds her and gives her a poisoned apple. And what this poisoned apple does, it kind of makes Snow White fall into like a deep sleep, and the only thing that can wake her up is like a true love's quick kiss. So the prince, who has fallen in love with Snow White in the film, arrives and kisses her, breaking the curse. They then live happily ever after. So for the notable cinematic aspects, I got two of them. One of which was like the animation, because in the movie, this movie kind of changed animation like with its like use of like it's called cell animation. Basically, instead of drawing it on the backgrounds, the animators drew the characters on these like see-through sheets called cells, and they put these cells on painted backgrounds, creating like some like kind of like a magic effect. These characters, like the moves, it made them look more like smoothly, more detailed than previous animation, and making them come to life in like a new way, kind of. And they were careful with each frame, resulting in a movie that looked amazing. Basically, this movie, like, it changed animation forever. This use of like cell animation to like reintroduce like how animation should be made. It's kind of set the bar for animation. Another cinematic aspect is the voice acting, as the voices in this movie are also important, making the movie like very like emotional. Because like Adriana Castelletti's voice as Snow White's filled like innocence, sweetness, capturing like the whole idea of the character. She plays like this optimistic young princess, and like Lucille Laverne's voice as the queen is also amazing. She makes the character sound like wicked, dramatic, setting the whole evil witch thing aside. And the voice actor who played the seven dwarves each gave like each dwarf like a unique personality instead of making them all like the same. And then this added like a lot of like funny humor moments to the story. And the voice of Snow White shows how crucial it is in animation, as like you can't really express it through facial expressions because like the artists are doing all that. So the voice acting easily puts it up there. It makes us feel like these things, kind of. As connection to the time period, we have Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, as it was made in the 1930s, and at this time like the movie was introduced, like kind of going through some big changes, facing a lot of money problems, and basically this movie was like a turning point, kind of. It showed that Walt Disney wanted to do something new and exciting with animation, and this like full length movie used the style mostly used like cartoons, right, the cell animation. And the success of the movie was like important, making animation a respected way to tell stories instead of just live action. The movie also reflects the time it was made in, as like Snow White represents what people thought was the perfect woman in the 1930s, like gentle, caring, good, caretaker. And the story also follows like a lot of traditional ideas on how men and women should behave, because like while Snow White finding happiness by being a good wife to take care of her home, it shows what people like thought about gender in the 1930s. As the final assessment, we got Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I put it as like an important movie in animation history, basically. It did things like that people haven't done before. It had like inspired many filmmakers and animators to do the same thing, repeat the same thing in like a similar fashion with these style animation. It captures like our imagination with like these characters and like animation instead of live action. Added a lot of value in cinema and history. And yeah, that's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937. It was a good watch, and yeah, that's it for my student film enrichment video.